Okay, here we go with vocal editing lesson number 2, part 3. Okay, so what we just did is started to divide up these syllables and do a little bit of snap to grid, and now we're going to continue doing that. So here, that's a consonant there. Looks like we already snapped that to grid, so I'm just going to nudge this forward. Okay, see the whole consonant. There it is. And the same with this one. Okay, so there's the whole consonant. I'll figure out exactly how much of that I want to use when we get there. This is an S, so we're going to go ahead and line that up to the grid as well. I'm just going to nudge it forward. Same with this one. Okay, line that up. And just kind of, I'm just making very rough edits as I go here, just to kind of get things roughly lined up. And I'll go back and get a little bit more specific with it in a moment. So there's some clicks and pops which I cleaned up along the way on the first lesson, on lesson 1. And now I'm going to kind of leave some of that for after I get things lined up a little bit better, instead of doing it as I go this time. Okay. So I'm not placing those there. I'm just kind of getting them out of the way and turning them into regions so I can go back and reattach everything on the second pass. So I'm just kind of doing a first pass where I line things up, and then a second pass where I clean everything up. And so that's probably an S. Yes, and this is probably another one. Yeah, so it's some sort of word that has a compound sibilance.
Got him for free,
Oh, that's a F. For free. Those were both Fs. For free.
for free.
For free. Okay. There's the vowel. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this F sound as small as possible for right now, just to keep it out of the way. And then we'll reattach it in a moment. I mean, this is very much like doing surgery or working on a car, where you need to sort of compartmentalize what you're working on, and move the heart out of the way of the lungs. If you're trying to work on the lungs, you have to kind of, sometimes they have to remove organs out of the body that aren't even being involved in the particular surgery that you're doing. Or if you're working on a car, sometimes it's necessary to take huge portions of the car apart that have nothing to do with the actual problem you're trying to solve, just because those things are in the way. Very much the same thing here. You've got parts that are blocking your ability to do the work you're trying to do. So what I just did is minimize. Now, what I'm able to do too, if you're looking at this take up above, this is not necessarily the actual take we're working with, but it's showing what the original orientation of, we could actually even show if this is take 13 here. So now I'm looking at the actual original orientation of take 13. So I can see if I wanted to, preserve more of the way that this groove was, I could go back to that. Like, if, in other words, if I play it back after I've done all this editing and decide, ooh, it doesn't have the feel that it originally had, and I lost something, I can always go back and kind of move things back to that structure. But again, I'm not super concerned about that in this particular case. This should feel a little bit on the beat because it's a rap song. If I were doing like a, um, some sort of Celine Dion ballad, I would probably leave things a little bit more behind the beat because of the emotion of a ballad like that. But when you're doing like kind of a up tempo, funky pop track, you want the vocal to be a little bit more on the beat. Okay, so I'm going to pop that forward. There we go. And I'm just going to put a mark there for the sibilance. I'll be back to tighten that up in a moment. Is that a breath or a sibilance?
E,
That's a breath. Okay, so I'm going to tighten that up in a moment.
E,
That's another breath. All right, so let's nudge this forward. I'm just going to cut it. Actually, I think I'll cut it there. And then pop it onto the grid. Okay, let's see how that lines up at the end. It lines up pretty good. Yeah. Let's do this. Take that, cut it there, take that, cut it there, and then just pop it. Oop, that went the other way. There it goes. All right. Do right to the attack transient, pop, pop, and move forward. What do we have there? I know I said I wasn't going to do any of this stuff, but I'm just going to fix that little thing there.
E,
Okay, so that's an H sound at the end of that.
E, E, E.
E. So that's really a non, it's a vowel sound without a real word attached to it. All right. This one here, I'm going to just kind of nudge the whole thing forward a little bit to line that up. I often will look at the middle of the phrase as the sort of target for lining it up. And if I can line the middle up between the two takes, I see, how much I'm off on if I'm off on the vowel is a little late here. It's still a little late there. So these are both a little bit
She
late. So I have a decision to make, which is, do I try to extend this forward and then this forward even more? But I don't have enough vowel to work with to extend it. I need a good chunk of even vowel, and I got a good one there. I could extend this one because the vowel stays pretty consistent. Let me take a look.
know that.
That one I could extend. This one I don't think so.
She know.
Now what I could do is look for another take. So let me take a second to just see that, because that's take 9, that's take 13. Let's take a listen here.
She know.
All right, so take 12 rather actually looks more like take 9
She know that.
than take 13 does. So I'm just going to actually copy that, paste it here. Now that lines up pretty good there. That lines up pretty good there. That actually might be close enough. Now let's see if they sonically sound good.
She know the guy.
That works fine. All right. So a lot of this can be done visually. I can just look at a take. I can see usually what the consonant is. I can see usually, obviously, the lengths. If the shape matches, you can do a lot of this by shape. The only thing you have to really listen for is pitch. And of course, we're going to fix a lot of that with Melodyne, but we want to make sure that it's not too far off. The closer it is in pitch in the performance, the less work Melodyne has to do, the more natural it's going to sound, the less processed it's going to sound ultimately. So that's important. Okay, I'm not going to do any fades yet. I'm just kind of...
She know the guy. She know the guy.
Okay, so now this looks like all I got to do is nudge these two forward about 40 milliseconds, and they'll line up pretty much perfectly to the grid. So let's, maybe not 40, maybe 30. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I was right. 30 milliseconds, roughly. So that's perfect in the front. Close to perfect. Let me go back to 1 millisecond nudge and just... Okay. And that's almost perfect in the consonants even. And now let's look at this. Okay, so that's pretty good. I mean that's pretty good. Let's listen to that.
Guys at the
I don't hear a problem with that. So we can actually just go with that as is. And then this, we're going to nudge forward a little bit, get it right to there. Oop. And this one. There we go. I'll come back and I'll get more precise with the consonants in a minute, but they're pretty close. And this one, let's see what it's attached to. Oh, it's just a single syllable. Awesome. That's just easy peasy. Now, the grid is very convenient for nudging because you could see it, right? There it is. There's that nice line, so you know exactly what's going on. That's why I use it because, there it is. It is theoretically possible to just kind of eyeball this without the grid and use like a guide track. If you want to, if you say you don't have a tempo map or that you're just trying to preserve as much of the original performance as possible, you can just simply take the original take and use that as your guide and then just shift things to match it. I mean, that will work as well. For me, what I'm trying to do is not just sync the phrases, but I'm also trying to improve his timing. So I'm not only trying to make it tighter between the two tracks, I'm also trying to make it tighter with the beat itself so that it just sounds better overall. So it sounds, instead of the person sounding like they're, asleep, they're sounding like they're awake. They're sounding like they actually are right there on top of that beat. Now, your taste for how much you want it to be on top of the beat is going to vary. But for me, I'm looking at, for most stuff that I like to work on, no matter what it is, dance, pop, rock, rap, whatever, I like it to be a little bit more on top of the beat. Now, if I'm doing a ballad, I might be a little bit less. All right, so let's just pop this forward a little bit. There we go, put the attack transient right there. And I'm just going to sync up these sibilances. That's good. And I'm just going to sync these two up. That looks pretty good. See the endings? Oh, the endings are off. What do we have? This is 12 up here.
Please.
Let's hear 12 against.
Please.
Let's hear 12 against this one.
Please.
It's a little closer in the shape.
Please. Obviously.
Get rid of that. Okay, that seems like it's going to be fine.
Obviously.
And we'll come back and we'll clean that up on the next pass. We're going to go to the next level on the next part of lesson number 2.